The brain state model was something that really spoke to me when I was first introduced to conscious discipline. So hold up your hand and pretend that your hand is the brain. We're going to rub right here at the base of your hand, and this would be the red part. This would be the survival state of the brain. This part of the brain controls all your automatic responses, all the things you don't have to think about, and this part of the brain is functioning at birth. Now I'm going to ask you to put your thumb on the inside like this. This would be the blue part, or the emotional state of the brain. This is where all your emotional memories are housed. This part of the brain comes online sometime around the middle of the child's first year, and you know that that's starting to happen when the child looks at you and says, no, or mine. So then I'm going to ask you to fold your fingers over top, and if this were your brain, this would actually be this part right here, the thinking part of your brain. On the graphic you'll see that it's green. This is the executive state of the brain, and this is where I have access to all my best thinking skills. This is where I can be reasonable and logical, where I can learn new things, and where I can solve problems. We're going to look at this brain state model in more depth. We're going to start back at the survival state again. I have certain skills in my survival state. Remember, that's this part of the brain, the red part. In my survival state, my skills are very limited. I can fight, I can run, or I can shut down. So if somebody breaks into my house at 2 o'clock in the morning, my skills are I can fight, I can run, or I can be so afraid that I don't even know what to do. To leave my survival state, to have access to the higher level thinking skills in my brain, I have to have a question answered. And that question is, am I safe? So once I know I'm safe, I can access the skills that are in my emotional state. And on the graphic, the emotional state is blue. And in my emotional state, I have skills that are a little more effective than fight, run, or shut down, but some of them are not so helpful. And those include whining, nagging, complaining, guilt, blame, finding fault, name calling. You may have a staff person like that. If you don't know who that is, it may be you. From my emotional state, I also have a question that needs to be answered. For me to leave the emotional state, I have to know, am I loved? Am I valued? Am I important? Do you see me? Do you notice me? Do you care about me? And so the question here is, am I loved? And when the question, am I safe and am I loved, are answered, I can move up into the highest level of my brain, this green part, the executive state of the brain, where I have access to all my best thinking skills, and I can solve problems, I can learn new things, I can have empathy for other people. This is where I have access to all my very best skills. This is where I'm brilliant. We're going to do a little bit of practice with the brain state. So you see back here, this child has a problem he has to solve. This little girl has knocked over his block tower. And so from his survival state, remember his skills are to fight, run, or shut down. So what is a response that this child might give when someone knocks over his tower? Well, he might hit, he might kick, he might push, he might run away. So let's say he's moved up a level in his brain and he's in his emotional state, and the same thing happens. The little girl knocks over his tower. Well, his skills there include name calling and social exclusion, so he might call her a poopy face and tell her she can't come to his birthday. Fold the fingers over top, and from here, from this executive part of his brain, he has access to all his best skills. And he might say to her, I don't like it when you knock over my tower, play with your own blocks. So that's what it looks like in a child. And we're going to move this same practice, we're going to look at it the same way from an adult. Say this is a teacher in one of your classrooms, and her problem is that the children are grabbing toys from each other. And so from her survival state, the only skills that she has are to fight, run, or shut down. And hopefully you don't have teachers that are fighting children in your programs, because that would be very bad. But run means we lose teachers because they don't know how to handle behaviors. It's actually the #1 reason why Head Start teachers leave their positions. Shut down can look like a teacher who's lifeguarding and she's just making sure no one gets lost, but she's really not handling any of the issues that come up. So the same set of behaviors that we see in children, we see in our staff, and we need to be able to identify those. And so this was one of my big aha moments when I first started practicing conscious discipline, was it doesn't just apply to children, but it applies to the adults as well. And then this last one is you. You're the administrator. There is a parent from your program who is angry, and she is coming after you. And she shows up in your office and she says, I'm either going to kick somebody's booty or I'm pulling my kid out of this school. And I use this example because it actually really happened to me. And I'm just going to be honest, before I started practicing conscious discipline, my response to her would not have been helpful. From my survival state, I may have wanted to fight back, From my emotional state, I probably would have wanted to exclude her. And I wouldn't have said to her, go away, but I might have said something that sounded a little more friendly, like, well, maybe this isn't the kind of program you want for your child. But from my executive state, I was able to look at that parent and say, all behavior is communication. This mom is telling me something. And when she's telling me my skills are to hurt someone or run, then I know she's telling me I don't feel safe. I need this question answered. I was able to talk with her about this and say, what doesn't feel safe? We had this great meeting, we had a great conversation. She left the meeting and she pointed at me and she said, I like you. And I thought, wow, this is great. I'm all up here in my executive state and I'm thinking, this stuff really works. That was fantastic. I look over at the teacher and the teacher bursts into tears. And the teacher said, doesn't she see how hard I've worked with this child? Doesn't she see all the things that I've done to support him? Doesn't she see how much I care about her son? Before conscious discipline, I would have said to the teacher, why are you crying? That was a great meeting. She wanted to kill us. Now she loves us. You know, who cares if she likes you? But I was able to see her behavior as communication, and her behavior was communicating, am I valued? Is my work valued? Am I seen? And is what I'm doing important? And so from my executive state, I needed to offer that teacher that validation and say, yes, your work is important, it's valuable, and what you're doing is appreciated.